All right, welcome back to the Soman Podcast. No idea what number episode we're at right now. Completely lost count. And we have a super cool guest today. This is our first virtual one, so if it looks really weird from there or there or there, we are talking to someone who actually lives in 2 different countries and is across some borders. I'm not sure. We'll figure all that out in a few minutes. A couple of thanks. We have the Soman Podcast stickers from Coconona. That's her nickname. And business. She's a little entrepreneur. Business called the Pastel Pencil. And she hooked us up with some cool stickers, of which I haven't told you this yet, Melissa, but you get one of these really cool stickers that I'm going to send to you, and you get to like sport it around. And when people ask you, you could be like, I was on the super prestigious Soman Podcast.
In America.
In the one country that I skipped.
Flew right over. We want to thank Bolton and Mink Studios for having us. Bolton and Mink Studios on the gram. We want to, what else do we want to do, Wade?
Thank Bolton and Mink, the company, real people, real solutions.
Real big coffee
cups.
Yep. And also Tony, he's back there on the box, just throwing some switches and making this all work.
TS producer, still looking for that raise.
Yes, we need that raise, so we're going to talk about that too. We'll discuss that. Today's a little bit different of a conversation. So as an introduction, which I'm going to probably totally butcher this, so I apologize in advance for this. But Melissa Kruper is our guest today. You and I have officially never met in person. We've only seen each other through a screen. But the reason I wanted to have you on is because, and actually this is a good question. How did you or I ever get connected? Do you remember that? Was it through the social media stuff you're doing that I just bought in and signed up and that's how we connected? How did that work?
Who it actually was? It was a lovely lady named Jessie Baker.
Yes, that's right. Okay, yeah. So Jessie Baker, who if you want a really cool follow on social media, I think it's at Jessie Baker, might be something like that.
Okay.
But this gal's a super badass. She catches muskies and does really cool stuff social media-wise and marketing and all that. But yeah, so we got connected that way. And now you've done some social media work for me. And like we've talked about before, I had more new clients coming in that I've never met, had no connection to, that just said, hey, here, I need to work with you in the first quarter of 2021 than I had probably in the first 9 years of me running my business. So
Wow.
That's
crazy.
Either I sucked super bad, which was probably the case, or I got some really good what would be the really good advice. And so I wanted to have you on, one, because I want to learn a little bit more about your backstory and how you got to do what you're doing now, skipping countries and whatever else that you're doing.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of learn a little bit about social media marketing today, what it was in the past, what it is now, and where it's going in the future. But we kind of start with where are you from and kind of the backstory of growing up and, kind of how you're from Vancouver, right? Originally?
Vancouver Island. But most people don't know where that is. They think it's just like a piece of Vancouver, which it sort of is, but it's kind of its own thing. So the far west coast of Canada.
BC in the house. BC in the house. British Columbia?
Yeah, best province in Canada.
So
I agree.
Is Vancouver Island, is that where they have all the black bears?
Yes, they do, but no grizzlies. We have black bears, no grizzlies, so we're good.
Yeah, the grizzlies are the ones that'll eat you. The black bears are the ones that just kind of run around and are scared of you, correct?
Yeah, 100%. But fun fact, black bears have been I swear something must have happened in a past life, but that is my one phobia. And I still to this day have dreams of them driving cars and trying to kidnap me. And they're full-on people with abilities to dream. So even though they're not grizzly bears, I'm just as scared of black bears.
So what is the deal? So brown bears will eat you, but black bears will not? Or is it the opposite?
They eat berries and fish. They're not carnivores.
So black bears are not carnivores?
There's only been one black bear attack that I know of in the upper Midwest in 30 years, a black bear attacking a person.
Okay.
It's all, anybody who gets eaten or mauled by a bear is going to be a grizzly bear.
It's a brown bear.
Yeah, brown bear.
Right.
Is there a difference between a brown bear and a grizzly bear? Do you know that?
No, I think they're the same thing.
I think it's kind of tomato. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, sorry.
Wade's been working at his corporate job all day long, and he's taking off his corporate shoes so he can feel.
Sorry, I just want to take these shoes off.
You're fine.
I love these. I love them. I mean, I love these Bruno O'Malley wingtips. They're awesome, but they're not that awesome. They're not that great. So if I can take them off and be in my socks, I'm in.
Is it far enough apart from each other?
Yeah.
Well, that's something else we should point out. We are both vaccinated.
Yep.
Oh.
So we got the vaccine, and kind of unplanned, I'm not going to wear a mask for this one, actually.
Yep.
So if you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. If you're not, I'll wear a mask. But we both got vaccinated, and I got my card and all that kind of stuff. So
yep.
I don't do anyway.
Yeah.
Like I go to work or I work at home. And so this is the first one where I'm not going to wear a mask.
Yep.
And I'm very happy about it. And I don't, unless you want me to, or if you're more comfortable there, in Mexico.
I would like to wear a mask, please.
God dang it.
Okay. So tell us now.
I'm kidding. Dig it off, please.
Fine.
Okay. So
or Tony, if you want me to, I mean, okay. So,
all right. Look at that. Tony's vaccinated too.
We're all vaccinated.
Yeah.
So
we're good.
I'm in.
All right, cool. So tell us, go back. Because I think generally speaking, Wade, were kind of generally the same age, kind of grew up the same time, but you grew up on Vancouver Island. So kind of tell us about growing up there, what it was like. You're the first Canadian, the Canadian-Mexican multinational that we've had on. But what was it like growing up on Vancouver Island?
It was amazing. I was actually born in Alberta, in Calgary. So when I was 5, I moved over to the island. And I will say the way I grew up is probably very similar to the way you did for sure, Matt, which was outdoors, fishing, camping, doing all that kind of stuff. Definitely not a city girl, but I was born in the city, and I still talk to this day. My parents still say that we know for sure that because you were raised in a smaller town and with outdoors being so prominent, that you're a different person because of that, and how different your life would have been if you would have lived in the city. And I truly am grateful for living and growing up where I did. To me, I've traveled all over the world, and it is one of my most favorite places. The trees and the ocean and the fresh water, nothing beats that. And the funny thing about that is when I moved to Alberta, so I actually moved back when I was 22 to do my master's in psychology. And my parents had said, we know you need to move away. We know you need to go to a city to do this kind of stuff. And I remember actually telling my dad, well, it's going to be fine because the lakes and the trees and the oceans aren't going to make me happy. And I will tell you that I was definitely wrong about that. So I think growing up in the trees is something that I want for my children as well. And I know that that is, living the life that you live. And it's amazing. I love the island. But it's small, and there's not a ton of opportunity for growth there, which can be difficult.
So did you went to high school on Vancouver Island?
I did.
Is that kind of how in the U.S. it goes? Your elementary school, junior high school, then you go off to some post-secondary if you go to school after that, some college type of thing. So explain how that progression worked for you.
So basically we got 3 schools through your whole K to 12. So you got kindergarten to grade 5, and then we have a middle school, which is really rare. There's not a lot of places that have middle school. So our middle school is 6 to 8, which I feel is some of the most difficult ages. They just throw you all together, allow you to figure it out somehow. So middle school is not that fun at all. And then 9 to 12. And then after that, you go on to university or college or whatever you decide to do from there. And then our master's, which is probably the same as you guys. So 4 years to get a degree. And then from there, you choose if you want to spend more money and go into more debt and get more education.
What'd you go to college for?
Psychology. So I started wanting to be a lawyer. So I went to school and got a criminology diploma, and then switched to psychology and sociology, and then went that direction and ended up getting a psychology degree.
So do you use that psychology degree?
Honestly, yes. And I think that is why. And it's weird because for so long I was I have a degree, but what does it do and how does that work? But what I've really realized, and what I teach in marketing, Marketing and sales is psychology. It's understanding humans and why they do things. And I truly believe that, as much as I couldn't see it for so long, that is why what I teach is so effective, and it's helping people understand things from a deeper level. It's not so much like what's happening with the algorithm or what do I need to do on Facebook. It's understanding humans and why we buy things and our behaviors. And that is how you influence them to purchase and grow your business. So yeah, I actually think it does, and it did. And even though I didn't finish my master's, it's something that I still think I could even do one day, because I love marketing so much. And I think it's so important.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I resonate with that a lot, because I went to college and was going to be an economics major, which is very practical, and decided against that and ended up with a history and philosophy degree. Well, my dad, who's practical, is like, well, why would you ever do something like that? I mean, what are you going to do with a history degree? Go work in a museum? Well, I use my especially philosophy degree every single day, because you're always like having to understand somebody else's perspective on things. Yeah. And the way I do stuff is, they come in and they say, well, I don't think I need to do that for these reasons. Well, you're just politely arguing with them and explaining that's a perspective, but here are some of the things that you haven't thought about. Yeah. And that's all philosophy. That's just helping other people understand where they might be missing things and how they can solve problems. So I'm a big advocate of that, of getting a piece of paper that says that you can do stuff and stick with it, and stick to the end, and then from there kind of go figure it out. But that's really interesting, because you and I know each other just based on the marketing stuff. I don't know anything about. I didn't know you. I mean, I knew you're from Vancouver, but I didn't know it was Vancouver Island. So that's very interesting. But so now you're into your master's, doing all of that. So now you left your master's program to then go start working. How did that go?
So was enrolled, doing all that kind of stuff, getting ready to go. And I was offered a job in corporate. And at that time, as a 22-year-old, it was like, do I really know who I am? How can I go get a degree and at 25 go help people with their life problems? Like, is this what I want to do? I feel like you're so young. We're pushed into like these careers and these things and like just following this path before we even know who we are. And I think it's why so many of us are unhappy, because we don't take a second to figure out who we are, what we love, like why we're here, who we can help. And we just fit into some sort of box. And that's all I was doing. It was like, okay, I want to be a lawyer because that sounds good. It's like listed in your grade 7, like class. It's like lawyer, doctor, whatever, one step up from astronaut. And then you go from there and you're just trying to make something work. But really it's like, who are we? Who am I? What do I like? And so I went through a little bit of a crisis at 22 years old, and it was like go into debt $40,000 or make more money than I've ever seen before. So I still truly believe everything happens for a reason, but I took a job in corporate oil and gas. I did the 9-to-5 grind. I hustled for that for years. And then that's where things
really I love that right there.
For me.
Because the industry does matter. Like how quickly you hit that point where it's like a stopgap, how much treads on the tire and how fast the tread comes off the tire really depends on the industry. Mm-hmm. So if you went, like I'm reading your, just a shout out to, it's melissakruper.com. And so if you want to go check out, a little bit about her, that's her spot. We'll put that on the screen when we get it edited. But what road you're driving on will take enough shit off those tires pretty fast. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing like oil and gas, that's a different kind of corporate. And so like if they tell you like, yeah, you should be able to do this job for 10 years, a job like that, you might be able to do for 2. It's like standing outside in the cold or the heat or at 70 degrees. That time period changes a lot based on what you're actually doing in the elements. So if that was your first job, that's a pretty tough industry.
So I was in head office, like in Calgary, doing the like liquid lunches and the like Friday, hockey games and all that kind of stuff, like really just in the corporate culture.
That's what I mean.
Before it was dark and then after it was dark, getting home in the dark, being there all day long. So yeah.
So were you going to the Flames hockey games? Is that you're like taking people to?
Yeah, I was.
So if you had to if you had to dial in your favorite hockey team, is it the Canucks? Is it the Flames? Where are you at?
Honestly, I don't have a preference. Hockey is a huge part of Canadian culture, obviously, and going to a hockey game in Vancouver is amazing. But when I was living in Calgary, going to hockey games, like we were in like boxes and like doing that kind of hockey game. So like, do I remember a lot of them? No. But it was fun. But I'm gonna have to say the Vancouver Canucks just because it's my home team, and that was the first hockey game I ever went to, and my dad took me, and I'm pretty sure I still have the shirt. So I'm gonna go with Vancouver Canucks.
That's so awesome.
And that's a sweet franchise too, and the logo is awesome.
Yeah,
like the Canuck logo is sweet.
Yeah,
I mean it's up top 5 all time. Blackhawks are up there, top 5 all time logos.
Yeah,
great logos.
Yep. Yeah.
Whalers, top 5.
They were pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
And you say hockey the right way,
hockey.
Which is good. Hockey.
So
yeah,
what about the corporate grind? When you first started, when did you notice, even if you didn't notice at the time, but looking back, when do you think you could first tell that you were like, this is some vapid bullshit and this isn't for me? Like how soon thereafter could you tell looking back?
I guess I'll say I was living what on paper was the dream. Like realistically, I had a downtown condo, was like getting to all these crazy events, every Stampede. Do you guys know what the Stampede is?
No.
No. Stampede is huge in Canada, but it's like a rodeo, but it happens once a year and it's a big thing. So getting like ground seats for that and all this kind of stuff and going to concerts and just living it up and having, living for that 9 to 5, like Fridays are off early and all that kind of stuff, living for the weekends. And I had everything that looked like I was supposed to have, but I was realizing very quickly that I wasn't happy. And getting out of bed in the morning was really difficult for me. I think part of it is having someone tell me what to do every single day was not working really well for me either, and not having that freedom to kind of design what my day looked like. But if I have to tell you the actual moment, in 2017, my mom actually had a heart attack, and it was kind of late at night, and I was 1,000 kilometers away from, family and friends in a place that I loved and wanted to be, but just couldn't. It was hard to have a career there, and I couldn't get to the plane in a time that, you know what I mean? Like it was like there was this gap between my brothers and my family being there. And so I got home. It was at Christmas time. I spent 3 weeks home at Christmas, and I had this shift of like realizing I'm not happy. That was traumatic for me, and I couldn't be there. Why am I so far away from my family and the place that I want to be for a career that I don't really even like? And I returned back to the city after that, and something had forever kind of changed in me. And I knew that year I needed to make a shift, and I needed to move home and figure out how that was going to work for me.
That's quite a realization. Obviously, was your mom okay?
She's good. It's a rare kind of thing, and she's good. But yeah, it changed a lot of things when things like that. And what really, really is important, we get so caught up in our day-to-day lives and thinking certain things matter, especially when you're in a city like that. It's like it's keeping up with the Joneses and the person next to you. We forget what truly matters, and it was all that was kind of brought back in. And when that happened, I could never really go back. I started losing the drive to go to work even more, and just all of that. So things happened pretty quick. I was home that September.
So you finished up. So you graduate college in what year?
2011. I graduated university. I was 21 with a degree.
Okay. So at 21, and then you work. So you got like a 6-year jog there, right? From
Yeah.
2011 to 2017. 6 years, master's degrees, working. And so you're in your late 20s, and you have this epiphany, or like in the old Pulp Fiction movie, it's what alcoholics say is I had a moment of clarity. Is what what Samuel Jackson's character Jules says. So she has the heart attack in
2017?
December 16.
Okay.
Yep. So then it's a 9-month turnaround.
Yeah, I was
back.
Yeah.
So then during that 9 months, I'm always fascinated by those time periods.
Yep.
Because like maybe you know that you're done, but it takes like, it's like dismantling the atomic bomb. It takes some time. So in that 9 months, what did you do and how were you feeling? What were you thinking? What was your game plan to get out of the rat race?
So I was already kind of doing some stuff in the online space and dabbling in that. I actually bartended a lot of the time that I was in Alberta as well. So I was working like full 9 to 5 and then bartending on the weekends. I don't know how I did it because I could never do that at this point in my life, but I worked a lot.
Why why the 2 jobs, for cash or for distraction, to numb your mind?
Just to stay busy. It's freezing there in the winter. There's not a lot to do. Like there's no outdoor stuff in Alberta. So it's like you're either going out and spending money every weekend, or I could go and bartend and make money and drink and have just as much fun from the other side of the bar, but make money while doing it. So I was just trying to save money because I think somehow I knew ultimately I wanted to get out of there. And there was money. Oil and gas had a decent amount of money at that time. So I think it's a good point you bring up. It takes, months to get the courage to leave a life that you think that you're supposed to have, or you think that you got there and you get there and you're like, I am miserable. This isn't what I wanted. And I am so grateful for the experience. Every single person I worked with, I have friends there that I'll never forget. And my bosses in the company and everything was absolutely incredible. It's just not what I was meant to be doing. But it's good. And I still believe everything happens for a reason, but it takes some time to rip that Band-Aid off and look at yourself and actually admit okay, I worked so hard and went to so much school and did all these things to have this life that I'm grateful for. And you almost feel guilty because you have everything you're supposed to have, but you're like, I actually hate this. And is that fair?
That takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of courage to, number one, have enough self-reflection to think that. And then once you have that realization, is to actually have maybe not necessarily a plan, but just end up making some decisions and taking action. Because there's a lot of people that live their whole life exactly like that. They're just like, I don't like this shit. I don't like going to work every day. It's just the way it is. I can't get out of it. I don't know how to get out of it. And they never actually make the transition and turn the keys and move out. So that's pretty unique from someone that is your age at that point, and to just turn around and take off. That's pretty amazing.
I don't know if it's a whole existential recognition that, because there's this been kind of this existential philosophical movement the last 20 years, give or take, about how to spend your time, and it's more intentional, and you hear things like that. Presence, focus, live intentionally, all those things. I don't remember hearing stuff like that on a broad scale, like reading books, from years ago. It's kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
But when you were talking, the question that came to mind was, what percentage of people do you think feel like that, but won't say it? I hate this, or, I think it's at least 50%.
I would say the majority.
What do you think? 50%?
60 at least.
I see more than that. And I see more than that. I see a lot of people. I don't necessarily think that it's the routine and having a job that people don't like sometimes. It's just where they're at in their job, or the fulfillment they're getting out of it. I truly believe our work model is completely outdated. We have technology now. We don't have to sit and write things on paper for hours a day. We're way more efficient. And that needs to reflect in our day-to-day lives. Like you said, everything is changing and we're shifting very quickly. And especially with the C word that I'm not even going to say, but that has also drastically changed the way we do things. People that thought that they couldn't work from home have realized, all these companies that are saying no, sorry, you can't work from home. And then all of a sudden that's their only option and they make it work. It's shifted our work model. We need to go back to family and prioritizing that and seeing what's important. And I think that is where our quality of life will shift, just not living to work all the time. And I think hopefully that's shifting right now, which I really, really hope, because I know how I felt and I don't want other people to feel that way.
Do you think it'll stick?
Sorry, what?
Do you think it'll stick? The last 13 months, there's a huge workplace shift in how we get work done, even for the biggest resistors of remote work, telework. Families have changed. Do you think it'll stick? Because like all three of us are vaccinated, for example. Things are kind of feeling a bit more normal in the States, especially the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
As more things roll out.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll go back to pre-pandemic, work lifestyle?
I truly believe that we're not going back to normal. There is a new normal. I think there's going to be a certain extent of things that shift back to how they were, but at the same time, a lot of stuff just isn't. We needed this change. And as much as this has been traumatizing, and I'm not going to minimize like what people have gone through this, a lot of people have also done the opposite. They've saved money. They've spent time with their families. They've realized their priorities. Like, there's a lot of people that embraced this and realized things that we needed to realize when we weren't just numbing ourselves out. We're like chronically trying to be busy all the time, and our work schedules help that. So when we take that all away and we're forced to sit inside and sit with ourselves, things start happening. And I think that that's going to shift people individually. I think culturally they'll maybe try and get things back because there's a lot more control that way. But I don't want to get too crazy on that side of things. But I truly think individually a lot of people are changing, and you can't switch back when you open up to that.
So there's a couple things that I want to touch on. I think that
let's get crazy and go that way, because
we can go that way. You want to go that way?
My favorite.
That's why I'm here. Let's do this.
Well, you did ask. You sent me a voice message before we started, and it was probably the funniest thing anybody's ever asked me before the podcast. And it basically says, "So I'm just wondering how inappropriate I can be. Like, is this appropriate? Is this professional? Like, what should I be doing? I don't know." And I'm like, that is one of the funniest things I've seen.
It's good to know your audience.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know. It's a good question, but I just loved it. It wasn't. You didn't ask how professional you should be. It was how inappropriate can I be?
Well, it's like, don't be silly.
I got followed up with that after. I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, do I need to be like businessy? I should probably cover that also.
It's like, don't be silly. I'm still gonna send it.
Still gonna send it.
That's like my favorite thing lately. It's funny that you say that.
Podcast.
Yeah, Larry,
send it.
Larry Enticer, baby.
It's gonna be a good day. So, no,
No, I got a question. Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
So you are now. So kind of going back. You come back home. You're trying to find your purpose, because you and I have talked a lot about that. Like, what is your purpose? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? So explain now how the process goes from corporate life on paper, what should be good, should be what you should want, but isn't fulfilling, not what your purpose is. How do you get to now the Everline social and, kind of where you're at now? And how did that mental focus shift away from 9 to 5 to I'm going to start my own gig and I'm just going to jump off the cliff and figure it out?
So I think having that life incident changed things drastically. And I started kind of dabbling in the online space and looking at things. And like I mentioned before, there's this tiny, I've tried so many different things, and there's so many people right now that are looking at me and they're like, oh, it must be nice. Like, you're living in Mexico. And there's like this part of me that feels this guilt sometimes. But at the same time, just like we talked about earlier, I know what it took to get here, and like the courage. And I truly think that if anyone wants that, they can have it. And another thing we've talked about is the online space. Like, technology is creating endless opportunities for people. Like, and it's weird because for a really long time, it was like I had to have this argument of like, it's not real and you can't make money. People are just kind of starting to come around with that. My parents have fully always supported me, but they're just starting to understand what I do. Like 4 years later, my grandparents have called me things that, because their generation can't wrap their heads around it. But I'm not going to say it. I said this before, but I'm an online scammer, according to them. So that's how I'm making money. And like, love them, it's fine. But it just goes to show that there's like this gap in people understanding these things. And because I've been online for 6 years, I have literally heard it all. But when we really look at it, the companies that are doing the best right now are like Airbnb, Uber, like Amazon. These are all online companies. They're using apps to buy things. And So, and not only that is I truly believe we're creating this shift from a job culture to entrepreneurs, and more entrepreneurs right now are going to be born than ever have before. One, using that technology, two, having that time to sit at home, and three, losing these jobs that they thought were secure and being forced to go and figure it out. So
Here's one point that I think you just made that is really good, because we talked about this in a previous episode, is where do you think these jobs go? And I look at it from an entrepreneur standpoint. I'm like, if I can work with you and you're my marketing person, as an example,
check.
And then I go to, and I check that box. I don't need to hire someone full-time 9 to 5, give them a cubicle. It's way cheaper and way more efficient for you and I to spend whatever, a couple hours a month talking on the phone and a few messages back and forth, and everything's square and everything's good. So I think that you're completely right that you're going to be able to pick and choose. If I need an HR manager, perfect. I go hire the HR manager. If I need an answering service to make sure that my phone always get answered, I don't need to hire, Betty, Sally, Stacy, or Dan. I just go and use whatever thing I need to make that happen. And I think that that's a true testament to exactly what you're talking about, is the whether it's a gig economy, or I don't even know what to call it, but I think
I don't know if it's totally gig economy either, but I think that, and we talked about it in the terms of there's really the middle is going to evaporate in terms of workforce. There's going to be these really big places and really tiny little small places, like individual service providers. And if they want to go pick or choose companies or teams, they're going to be able to cherry pick those programs and teams, bring them together, do their thing, and leave. And it's going to create some diversity and a hell of a lot of great competition for people. But also, they don't have to worry about losing this one client or this one thing, and they're screwed. Like if you lose, if you have 200 clients and 5 of them fire you, you still have 195 clients. Whereas if you work for that one place and the shit hits the fan, you might be fired. So I think you're going to have some security. It might not seem like it in the beginning, but I think that's what it'll go to if you're a knowledge worker. Right? If you're a knowledge worker or a keyboard clacker, or an alleged online scammer, you can see the delay is great.
We love the delay. We're trying to figure that out right now.
So
I was hoping you were going to laugh. I'm looking at you like, waiting. Oh God, wow, she must not be listening at all.
Oh, Harry, another person. We just talked about it.
It goes
to Mexico slow.
Okay, so I apologize. I totally interrupted right when you were talking about going on the online space and doing that. So first question is, how'd you land this arena, and why is it important to you? Why do you find fulfillment in it? And why do you think that your purpose is wrapped around what you're doing now?
And it's cool that you say it that way, because I truly believe that I am doing what I'm meant to do, and it feels really cool to feel that. And really, when I think about it, and this is something I always talk to people about, is when they're thinking about their purpose or what they're supposed to be doing, is what did you do when you were younger that you really loved? And what games did you play? What did you do when you played make-believe and all of that kind of stuff? And for me, I was always teaching. I was always playing school. I was always forcing my little brothers to sit in desks and do things, but teaching was what I really loved. And that is what I'm doing now. And that is where I am the happiest. And just having that psychology background and knowing that I really understand and like people and all of that kind of stuff, it all kind of plays in together if you're really open to just being aware of that kind of stuff and kind of piecing it together. So I started in the online space. I knew I didn't want someone to tell me what to do or how much vacation time to have. When I was trying to go back and forth, all my vacation time was basically going to the island. Traveling has always been really important to me. So it was it's honestly perfect, because it's you can travel, I can work from wherever. I'm helping people, I'm teaching people, and I am doing psychology and applying all of that kind of stuff to what I do. So it just kind of slowly transitioned, and it had to grow. And a lot of it was consistently pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So I started in multi-level marketing, which I know everyone knows of. So I started there in MLM businesses, and you guys I don't know what you call it in the States. Okay, so what's a good example of multi-level marketing?
No,
we understand.
Yeah, we know what they are, and I'm a fan of MLMs. I mean, I think they in the right spaces they work.
They do. It's an incredible business model, and they usually have really great products because they have to make that work. So I started there, and that was what really pushed me out of my comfort zone because I hated every single part of it. I hated it. It felt terrible for me, but it got me over kind of like going on camera and going live and doing that kind of stuff and putting myself out there and letting go of what other people thought of me, because I hated what I was doing and I had to do it to making the money was more important to me to get myself out of my position than other people's opinions. And I think that's why so many people can't start. They are so worried about what someone else thinks of them. And like the biggest thing I've really noticed is like, we are all just trying to figure our own shit out. Like I'm spending way too much time worrying about me to really care about you and what you're doing. We're also focused on what the next person outside of us thinks. And it's an illusion because it's not happening. We're worried about ourselves every single night. That's what we freak out about in bed is like, oh my God, I said this today and I accidentally did this. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe like Lucy started an MLM business. Like that's not what's keeping us up at night. So that pushed me over that. And then I moved from there and I got into the Forex industry and I was doing trading and day trading and all that kind of stuff. And I realized I didn't really love that. And then I started getting into e-commerce and getting to the Amazon side of things and all of that. And then I got into affiliate marketing, and affiliate marketing was where I grew very quickly and started to become a mentor, and I started teaching and working and doing one-on-one coaching. And then that's where that became alive. And then doing the coaching and working with people and then applying everything that I had learned in marketing and just a skill set that was just naturally there. I don't know where it came from. I've done over $1 million in sales online through the same thing that I've been doing the whole time with like attracting people to me and providing that value that I couldn't realize. And the second that I kind of realized what I was doing was where I knew I wanted to create a business and help people. And Everline was born. I actually originally had a business partner. Partnerships are really difficult. I don't know if you guys have ever been in one. And
that's a whole podcast right there.
We want to do a partnership podcast. So if we could like hit the pause button there, because I'll forget, but there's something you said like 10 minutes ago. So we could just hit pause on the partnership thing, because we should totally talk about that. You mentioned something about this perpetual busyness.
Yeah.
That we feel like we have to be perpetually busy.
Yeah.
And
it's an addiction almost.
It is an addiction for sure. There's I think it was Richard Nixon when he was president, he talked about the pending technology boom and the growth and how, and with the computers and everything happening, that we would have a 4-day work week, right? Like that was this thing. But the problem is that never happened. So how do you think that we break that cycle of busyness? Because, we'll joke that we probably interacted with more people in one day, like 200 emails, 200 text messages, whatever it is, that we interacted with more people today than most workers did in 2 weeks, say in the 1960s.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So why are we working so much more now? Like what happened? Why do we keep doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it a human thing? Is it like an efficiency? Is it like a Western philosophy thing? Like why is this awesome and why does it suck? Like what did this do to us? This phone and all this, this technology, why?
Okay, I'm gonna go deep on this one in terms of, I truly believe that it's a Western culture problem, for sure. Traveling all over the world, I swear it's weird going to Asia and all of these other places that are third world countries. They're living, they have nothing. You feel going into these countries that like you're the better person. I don't know how to say that without sounding weird, but there's this different feeling of like, oh, I'm like a Westerner. And you get there and you notice these people and how they live their lives and how happy they are. And I swear they look at us like, you guys have it all wrong. Like, what are you guys doing? And I truly believe it's a Western culture issue that we have created this society that has been bred to be a consumer society that like follows the rules and does all these things so that we buy things and we think that buying things makes us feel better. And we get wrapped up in all this. And now we have technology and all of these things. And there's this culture of like, we talked about, like, go to school, get a job, figure out what you want to do, like have a house, get 2.5 children, like have the white picket fence. Like we're taught this is the idea that we're supposed to strive for. So there's all these people dealing with these massive crises because they're 31 years old and they're not where they thought they were supposed to be. But it's like, we're not following what we truly want and what's like deep inside of us. And that's kind of what's shifting right now. So I think the busyness is that in order to cope with all of these things, we're all addicted to something, whether that is on your cell phone, whether you're drinking, whether you're, you have this chronic need to just feel busy, to be with friends. We're all just numbing all of the time. And I think that this period has been hard, but it has taken these distractions away. And the answer to this is healing. It's to healing ourselves. It's healing what's inside of us. It's to acknowledging these feelings, the things that are keeping us up at night. Like we're being told what we need to fix. And when we take that path and start actually listening to ourselves and what we truly want, not what your mom or your grandma or someone else thinks, is where this is all going to start to shift. But until we have that deeper like recognition and those like, conversations with ourselves, we're going to continue to distract. And whether that's a cell phone or whatever that looks like, but it's numbing is what we're doing.
I totally resonate with that. What I've found is with all of the stuff that's gone on is I have, at least last year, I had a lot of time, not a lot of time, but I had more time to sit and just think like quietly to myself, whether I'm at the office or I'm at home or am I in my home office, of just what's the direction of business? What's the direction of this or that? Or like just slowing down enough to take the time to be able to self-reflect on what's going on. And that is one of my favorite words, is self-reflection, because you can learn so much about yourself if you're willing to just sit in silence for a period of time without distractions. I'll give a good example, and you would like this. There's a place, do you know where Duluth, Minnesota is? Probably not. You know where Lake Superior is, right? You don't know. She could have a geographic, you know Lake Superior, the Great Lakes?
Yeah.
Okay. So the western side of Lake Superior comes to a tip. That's where Duluth, Minnesota is. I went to college there. And about 20 miles-ish, I don't know what that is in kilometers, but 20 miles north is a lake called Island Lake. And that's exactly what it is. It has a bunch of campsites all over on these islands all over the lake. And last year, I got to watch, no, it was 2 years ago, I got to watch this storm come in that ended up not hitting me, which was great. But it was just like all this lightning and like just, it was crazy weather. And I'm sitting on my island with my dog and, roasting whatever I was on the fire, some supper stuff or whatever I was having. But like that 2 hours of watching that storm roll through, of just being completely silent and not talking, not interacting with people. I had no phone reception. I couldn't even contact the outside world if I wanted to. But like taking that time to just like think about, okay, what in the world am I actually doing? Like, is this what I want to do? Is it not what I want to do? If it's not, how can I change it? It goes back to, Wade, you and I've talked about this, Jim Rohn. If you don't like where you are, change it. You're not a tree. If you don't like your life, change it. You don't like your job, change it. You don't like what you're doing, change it. And I think that's so hard for people to do, is one, self-reflect. And if they get that far, like you're talking, is making the change to do that. That's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. There's not many people programmed to just dive off a cliff and jump into something that's unknown to them. But anyway, that's a total side note. But
well, like I was on my phone when you were talking about that.
Ironic.
So, sorry. But the reason was there's this book that I've read, I'm reading again now. It's Living with the Monks by Jesse Itzler. I think it's Itzler, but either way, it's Living with the Monks. He's the dude that wrote the book Living with the Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Like when you live with Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
Same, it's the same author. So, but the small title is Living with the Monks, What Turning Off My Phone Taught Me About Happiness, Gratitude, and Focus. And so my favorite part from the story is when he first gets to this monastery and he has dinner, and he gets to walk back to his room, which they call a cell. It's like a bed, a desk, and nothing else. And he has books, and he has like nothing else. No phone, no nothing. And it's like 6 o'clock at night. He's like, all right, well, we'll see you in the morning. He's like, so now what do I do? And he's like, you pray, you meditate. He said he was going to lose his mind. And he had just gotten to the monastery. And he was there for the first time alone in the cell. And they don't come out for another 12 hours. First night he's there. No TV, no internet, no cell phone. He's doing push-ups. He's trying to pass the time. He's like, you know what? I'll meditate. Because he did have a clock that had a timer or something like that. I'll just meditate for a while. And he's thinking to himself, I'm sure 20 minutes has gone by. He opens up his eyes and he sees it's like 5 minutes. And he's thinking, I'm never going to survive the 30 days that I said I would be here, or the 2 weeks that this is a mistake. I need to get the F out of here. Because he was so used to being busy that it was almost like his brain was losing a sense of reality or control. I think that's what we did to our brains in the last 20 years. He is not alone. Mm-hmm. I think we totally reprogrammed our neural circuitry going back to the late 90s. I think, and it took 20 years, and now we have it.
Yeah.
Period.
Interesting point to add to that. So I've been to a couple yoga retreats, and the actual retreats, we have a day for 24 hours. It's called a day of silence. For that 24 hours, you are not allowed any external communication. So like no cell phones, no books, no talking to people, like no input from anything. So you're allowed to journal and you're allowed to go walk and do whatever, but there is no input. And every single person, every time I've seen it, basically has a mental breakdown at the end of that day. But
yeah, exactly.
They experience like massive transformation because they're like, holy shit, I'm gonna like sit and like just be by myself. Like, who am I? Do we even know ourselves half the time? Or are we like just walking around trying to be what everyone else thinks we're supposed to be and like fit into all these little boxes? And like, when you truly sit with yourself, it's scary. And there are people bawling their eyes out at the end of this every time. And their lives are changed because of it. So it's hard because the way that we live doesn't fully support this. I actually did a really cool plant ceremony a couple weeks ago, and you come out of that and you're living in this altered state, and like reality is very different and things are really magical, but our society doesn't allow that to stay. So it is so hard in the world we live in to live like a monk or to do these practices or keep these like lessons going, because we get thrown right back into like 9 to 5 and consumers and just like that sort of lifestyle.
So fun, like something fun to share. And I think it speaks to this. Orfield Laboratories is in, the state of Minnesota, USA. And this laboratory has the quietest room on the planet. It is 99.99% sound absorbent and holds the Guinness World Record for the world's quietest place. You can go sit in this room, and I've wanted to go here for years, and I still want to go, and I'm going to go. The longest anybody has been able to sit in this room ever, all time, is 45 minutes.
Wow. That honestly like gives me anxiety thinking about it.
It's so quiet. And the room that we're in right now is actually pretty sound absorbent. That room is 99.99% sound absorbent. People can't do it. It's so silent. It measures negative decibels.
Wow.
And so people go there for 45 minutes, being a Westerner and trying to be efficient, you don't have to like be quiet for a whole day. You can just go there for like 5-10 minutes.
Wow.
And it'll sort that stuff out. But because we can't handle it. We can't handle whatever's going on up here in our head, the voices in our head, our own voice. So when it's totally silent, people lose their shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to
go there really bad.
So do I.
Totally.
Kids,
It's so important.
Orfield Laboratories, Minnesota, quietest room in the world.
Well, it's no different than Isle Royal, which is a huge island in the middle of Lake Superior. Wade's been there, and I've talked about since I've been wanting to go there for 6 years, and for reasons I haven't been able to go. But you have no cell phone reception. Yeah. You have no connection to the outside world. You go there and you are on your own. And you might get there and the weather's so bad on Lake Superior, you're supposed to leave 6 days ago, but you just can't because the weather's so bad you're screwed. Or it's such a pure place. It's the least visited national park in the United States.
But most revisited.
In the entire country. I want to go there so bad for all these reasons to where you're off the grid. I was fishing in Lake of the Woods, muskie fishing, and the third day of 6 days, I finally, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, we didn't have any cell phone reception, so there's no reason for you to even look at my phone. But I would find myself the first and second day going into the glove compartment of the boat and going and looking at my phone for no reason. There was I had no connection, but it was such an ingrained thing in my head. Yeah. I remember the end of the third day was like 7:00 at night, and we were going to fish the last couple spots, and I realized that I had not looked at my phone or thought of my phone for 12 hours. Yeah. And it was like the most liberating thing I had experienced in a very long time, other than like my children being born or probably getting married or, any of that. This might be one of the most liberating things I've ever experienced. And so, but that points to how much we've changed our brain and how much you need to have the opportunity to go shut things off and figure out what really matters.
Yeah.
Well, you're actually getting, I don't know if it's serotonin, but you're actually getting like a rush every time you like get a message or that that ding goes off or you look at things, and it's also building this weird habit of just like constantly looking all the time. And it's like you have to detox from social media and from technology to like truly even get to that point where you can unplug, because you're just like fighting this like addiction for the first part of it.
Which is so ironic because you use social media to support yourself with your business. Which is really ironic. But
it's why I unplug and I have boundaries for it. And people know that and since day one, it's been Friday afternoon to like Monday morning, I'm offline and other things are a priority because you have to, it's exhausting. You cannot be plugged in like that all the time.
Yeah. It's like you're getting mad at Budweiser for making beer.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have social awareness campaigns on my can of Budweiser or Molson, or maybe Labatt, but I don't want to have this constant stream of awareness be put in my face through marketing or products or online. It's like the milk carton. Like as a kid, you could see missing children on the milk carton, and there was a comic like Bill Maher was talking about it or somebody like that. Recently, it's like, I just want to eat my cereal. I don't want to have a public awareness campaign. But now every single opportunity is being gobbled up by Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, Facebook, and I just stay off that stuff. I don't have a Facebook. I never have. I've been on Twitter here and there, and I don't regret it at all. I have zero regrets about it. They're like, oh, just let me send this to you on Facebook. I'm like, I don't have that. Mm-hmm. They're like, what? You don't have Facebook? And I was like, you mean Crackbook? I would call it Crackbook because people, their dopamine response is just constantly being triggered all the time.
Yep.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, back in the day when you would write a list on a piece of paper, have you ever done something on the list that wasn't there, but then you wrote it in there just to cross it off?
I do that all the time.
Yeah, yep. You had 5 things on the list, but you dropped off the dry cleaning. And so you write, all right, well, no.
Brushed my teeth. Nailed it.
Dropped off the dry cleaning. Crossed that off. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I have no unread messages. I'm a good boy.
Yeah.
I'm a good boy. I've read all my messages. And that's what it is. Like, we fight this thing. The scary part is seeing like the generation that is younger than us, because we're all within about 10 years of each other. And so we're in the same generation, give or take. But the kids that are growing up with this from the jump, I don't know what they're going to look like as human beings with this technology. Mm-hmm. Like if they want to find out if somebody is, I don't know, into X, Y, or Z, they just go on their phone. Like my sixth grader. He's like, well, this person is this sexual orientation, this one is this one. And I'm like, why do you know that? Or why should you know that? And like, oh, that's all out there. Snapchat, Instagram, it's all over the place. And I don't think you can ever get that back. It's just done. Like the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah.
It's out.
Look what it's doing for like dating world and to relationships. Like they're disposable now because we have a plethora of people at our fingertips. Like there's good and bad about technology. I think it's just like, it's money. You can do really good things with money and you can do really bad things with money. And there's downsides to technology, but there's also some incredible things that are happening with social media. But the children part is difficult. Like I don't have kids yet, but it's, I can see their little brains and what happens to them when they get on their iPads and when they get their iPads taken away and like how it changes a kid. So we can't deny that it's like you can watch your own child and like how they act with that. And the like you said, the high that they're getting and when that's taken away from them. And it's almost like they go through their own little detox. So like, what is that doing to us? Because no one's taking our iPads away.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, man.
It is.
It might be saving some marriages too, though. Because I think seeing what I've seen out there or hearing from people that are divorced or single and they're talking about all this craziness on the dating websites and online stuff, I'm just so thankful that I am married and like in a good relationship because I just wouldn't want to deal with that crap.
Yeah.
Like it took me forever to even understand like all these like swipe right, swipe left jokes because I don't know what that even means.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like swipe right, swipe left. It's like, oh, it's this app. If you like somebody, you swipe this way. If you don't, you swipe the other way. And I'm like, this is how we're like treating human beings like they're playing cards.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know.
But
like, I do think though,
I'm going to go home.
Like there's a lot of negative issues, I think, but there's also a point where I truly believe that this is the most immaculate time like that you could have ever, maybe not ever, but I truly believe this is an amazing time to be alive because no doubt. This is a great example. When I was talking with, I had a meeting earlier today and this gal was asking me about the podcast. Well, who, she knows that we record on Thursday. She goes, who's your guest tonight? I said, well, this gal who does social media marketing. And she's like, oh, like, where, like in Mankato, where we live, where, does she in Mankato? I'm like, well, she's from Vancouver, British Columbia, but she's currently in Mexico. And she's like, how did you connect with her? I'm like, well, the internet.
You're like Al Gore, obviously.
Like you and I would have never virtually met each other had the internet not existed. We wouldn't be having this conversation if the internet didn't exist.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know Tony if this didn't exist. I mean, there's a lot of really amazing things that you can do, positive things that you can do. And I think overall, the outcome is either going to be extremely awfully, terribly negative, which those aren't exactly the correct words, or I think this is going to end up just fine. And I hope, being optimistic, that it's going to end up fine. But
yeah.
Oh, 100%. I think there's way more good than that's going to come out of bad. The information is open now. We can speak to each other. We can stick together. We can create these movements. Like, look at all the stuff that's happening because of social media. Like, we are shifting. We're sticking up for each other. We're joining each other. We're able to connect with like-minded people. Yes, it's causing a disconnect in a lot of things, but I think this is how we come together and how we start changing these things is because we can communicate and we can get these groups together. And there are things happening that have never happened before because of social media. information is now available. People can see things. It's not so controlled. Platforms are being made that are not. They're doing their best they can to censor things, but we're gonna get through. And I think that the messages are getting these things are getting out there now, and they were never able to before because it was so controlled.
So you're a history guy. I mean, I don't recall the order of the ages, but I mean, was it the age of enlightenment and then the industrial age?
It was the Enlightenment, then the Industrial Revolution. Yep.
Okay. So we go back to the age of enlightenment or the enlightenment, that
this
period.
is like the American Revolution-ish.
Like Jeffersonian times.
Yep.
So then we go to the industrial era, and you fast forward a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we can call this the age of information.
Right.
Yeah, I call it the digital revolution.
Sure.
Okay.
That
So
works.
let's just say it's a digital revolution. I hope what you're saying is, and what I'm hearing you say, is that we are now going to be entering, hopefully, an age of wisdom. Because we have an age of enlightenment, industry, technology, but we haven't had this age of wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that's what we have to make sure we foster next.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if we don't need to memorize, the capital of, Alberta,
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, we can just look it up. Can we get wise and take more time for ourselves and figure out how to be better human beings, better stewards of our own lives and our families and the earth? So I think that's the positive spin.
Yeah.
I think the utility hopefully provides us with the ability to become wiser and hopefully not busier.
Yeah.
I just think we're kind of that up right now.
It's like Enlightenment 2.0, but like on a completely different thing.
Yeah.
I agree. There's always disruptions. You look at Martin Luther when he started, when he put it was like 1317, I think. I'm going to totally screw that up and I'm going to look back. But like Martin Luther puts the 95 or 90 whatever theses and he just, smacks them on the door of the Catholic Church. Like that was a big, I mean, that changed the whole world. You look at all of these things that are happening. We're in that type of disruption.
Yeah.
And how it all shakes out, I don't know exactly, but I think it's going to be positive. But what's our what's the next topic we're going to talk about instead of terrible things that are going on in social media or positive things that are going on in social media?
I mean, I think it's good. This is, what I wanted to talk about was I'm fascinated by that portion of it. So hopefully hopefully that will shake out, and whoever comes after us, and gets older and starts to figure stuff out, they can maybe help us find out where we mess things up, and make it better.
So I have a question. Selfishly, I have a question. So right now, what you're doing, I have a fairly good idea of what you're doing with brand awareness and marketing and social media marketing. So what are the next steps for Melissa Kruper?
The next steps. So when I built Everline, so there's kind of three parts. There's three ways essentially that I can help people. So number one is I built a membership course. So when I was doing affiliate marketing, I was having this conversation all the time with actual business owners telling me, look, so what affiliate marketing was, I had all these different offers essentially of ways that I could help people make money online, depending on kind of what worked for them. So I was having a conversation all the time, like running paid ads and doing marketing from business owners saying like, look, I don't want to make any other money. I want to grow my business using social media. I know how important it is, but it completely overwhelms me. I can't find a course. I can't find something that can help me. And like, that's what I need. And I had that conversation so many times. So November 2018 was the first time I had the idea. And that's where the whole partnership thing comes in. A friend who I worked with and I also had the same idea, and we were going to build this together. Things happen, everything happens for a reason. We went our separate ways. And then that was my next push to say like, no, I still really want to do this and I'm going to create this. So in May, when COVID started, in May, I decided I was ready. And in 30 days, I built Social Made Simple, which is a course. I filmed 98 videos. There is like 17 hours of training, filmed it all, built it all, put it all together. Jesse Baker helped me with a lot of that and was ready to launch something in August of that year. And that was the course that I was told by the marketplace, this is what they needed. And I knew I could help them. So that's where I created that. So that's Social Made Simple. But my idea with creating Everline was building an actual company, and, you know, having more people work for me and creating those job opportunities and building that out, and, you know, either taking students from university or students locally in my town, especially because there was so many jobs that were being lost, and helping people create those opportunities as well. So then I started the management division. So the social media management side of Everline is where we take customers. So it's kind of the next level up. Like, I don't want to do a course. I don't want to kind of do the work myself. I want you to do it. So then I started building out the management division of Everline, and that is growing massively right now, which has been amazing. And I take everything I teach in my course and I apply it to my management clients. So it's like, it's working in both directions, which is incredible. And then I do one-on-one coaching. So for someone like Matt that wants a little bit extra help doing things, or he's really focused on their own business. You know,
he's too stupid to do it himself.
I don't think it's stupidity.
Yeah, just it's complete stupidity, and I don't know what I'm doing. So that's where she comes.
There are people that are like, I'm busy. I'm at a level in my business that I can afford to pay someone to do these things, and it's shortcuts. You're paying for someone to help you navigate through things. It's all about saving time. So that's where that all kind of started, and now I just want to keep growing the company, and just building an actual company is something that excites me because I know what I have worked. So how can I get this to more business owners? How can I help more businesses, especially as I know that they need this? I know how important, you know, social media is our modern day business card. We can talk around it any way we want. We're in this age of like, we look at reviews, we create people, like we see what's going on in their social presence and how other people are interacting with them. That's how we make our decisions. We want other people to tell us what to do for some reason. I don't know why, but it's why, it's part of what I teach and how I create that authority with people. So I believe I have some understanding that's different in terms of I apply really deep like marketing and psychological principles to what I teach people, and sales. I love sales. But also just really wanting to support all these business owners because there are a lot, and people are creating things left, right, and center right now. And I think it's amazing. I think it's incredible what we're going through right now. As much as it's been difficult, it's really cool to see these people build businesses that, you know, from their passions, that they just started making things because they were stuck at home, and it's really cool. So I'm happy and excited and feel fulfilled to be able to be a part of that and know that I can help them.
So do you feel like you're a creative person?
I don't feel like I'm an artistic person. Like I can't draw or like do any of that kind of stuff. It's actually very scary. I have no patience either for like sitting there and like sewing something or whatever. So I wouldn't say I'm artistic, but I would say creative. Yes. I would say that I'm constantly like connected to something, and some sort of ideas are always coming through me. And
yeah.
Isn't that so fun? I apologize to interrupt you there, but isn't that so fun? Like, I have a guy, a business coach that I work with, and he said to me, this is like 2 years ago. He's like, "Well, you're not satisfied unless you're creating," and I'm like, "Huh." Yeah. Like I'd never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But now I see it in other people, and I get so excited and so giddy because that's how I am. I just love thinking about ideas and like, whether it's marketing or whether it's ways to bring value to the marketplace or hire people or create businesses or any of those things. And I think maybe that's where the connection between you and I is, that we love to just start thinking about new things, new ideas. And the same reason why you and I connected, Wade, however many years ago when we first started doing farm estate planning seminars in southern Minnesota, northern Iowa.
It's performance art to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I think and like we started out with this concept of, you know, like we go to school and we get this job and do these different things. I don't know where we get off track on that, but like if you go back to first grade, second grade, and you're looking at the kind of stuff you want to do, I think that's a pretty good indicator of the kinds of things you should be doing generally in your life, right? So if you're doing something like that then, if you're doing something like that now, there's a good chance you're probably happy. There's a good chance, right? Or you just heaped on so much shit that you can't tell the difference, like that you are actually doing something you want to do or you got to where you were hoping to go. And like there was a point in time where I was just absolutely miserable. I was just hated what I was doing. I'm like, why, why'd I go to law school? Why'd I become a lawyer? This is really hard. And I'm just burned out. And my mom brought me this piece of paper that I had made in like second grade. Like those line, like you write on, and it was like goals and basically it's like a little, it said like when I grow up, I'll make $100,000 a year. I'll be rich. I'll have 2 kids. I'm going to buy a house, get married, and I'll be happy. And like at the time I was miserable. And my mom's like, I found something that I wanted to share with you. And I was, kind of tearing my beer with my mom in a few conversations. And she pulls it up and she's like, look at this. This is from like 1988. She's like, you did it. It's okay. You made it. Be happy. Like it happened. Be nice to yourself. Be a good person. Be kind. Be happy. You did everything you wanted to do, right? I was like, yeah, apparently. And she's like, so everything after this is just, it's bonus. It's gravy. Have fun. Be happy. Chill out, man. Like, here, hit this. Chill out. Just be happier as a person. And I swear to God, since that day, it has just been up. It's just been better since that day. And that was like 4 years ago. Because I'm like, I guess when I was 7, like that was the path. I'm gonna have 2 sons. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have a house. I'm gonna make $100,000. I'm gonna be rich. I'll be happy. All that stuff happened. If I keep it simple like that, and break it down just to those elements, I find that happiness is not far away from that mindset. I'm really super close to it, unless I screw it up and like start adding dumb stuff to my life. Then happiness is not that far away. It's really close.
That's a good point. That is a good point. So what does happiness look like for Melissa Kruper?
Happiness, I truly believe, comes from inside of you. It's nothing external. And if you can't be happy with what you have, you'll never be happy with what you get, no matter what that is, ever. Gratitude. There's one thing that I would encourage people to incorporate in their life. It's gratitude.
An attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, just being thankful.
More gratitude, less attitude.
I'm going to say that to my daughter next time she starts being mouthy.
Yeah. Well, no, it's definitely an inside job. And so I think about, like, there's a Pearl Jam song, called Inside Job. And that's what the whole song's about. Like, if you're looking outside of yourself, it's not there. It's really an inside job. Like, period, for jobs or marriages or whatever, or kids. So I'll be fascinated when we connect in the future to see how this entrepreneurial, creative, kind of jet-setting, world-traveling persona fits you when you have a family. I am just thrilled. I cannot wait.
I accept your challenge, sir.
Sounds good. I knew it.
We were going to snip that part, Tony.
Sounds good. I accept your challenge, sir. She just mic dropped me. She's like, all right, we'll see.
All right, that'll be good.
I cannot wait.
I'm super, I think, do we have any other things we needed to talk about today?
No, I absolutely love this so much.
This might be my top episode from like favorite episodes of the podcast so far. I really enjoyed this one.
Very much so. I think that the video conferencing technology probably helped. I mean, I know it did. It helped me to be more patient and wait for my turn to talk and be more respectful.
Yeah. And I think too, Melissa, on your way back, when you fly across America and go to Canada, you should make a little pit stop into Minneapolis St. Paul Airport, and we can do an update.
Or we can go to the quietest room
room in the world.
Yes, just do it live of like what our mental breakdowns and how that goes.
We could do a challenge to who would last the longest.
Yeah, we'll bring one of these cameras. Tony will come. Yes.
Competition. One of us is going to win that 40 minutes for sure.
that we have to do this now?
I've wanted to for years. I'm seriously.
Okay. Yep. MSP, that's the airport you need to fly to, and we'd be happy to make sure all your logistics are taken care of, and we will go to the quietest room in the country.
Field Laboratories, quietest room on the planet challenge, and we'll film that and see.
I'm 100% into this.
It will be fun.
Okay, well, let us know when you decide to extradite yourself out of Mexico, and we got to make this happen.
If there's anything you have going on, like the classes, Social Made Simple, the management pieces, if you anything that you have going on, you want to give a shout out, or anything that you want to point us to, we'll get that linked in and closed so people, like when they see it, and so this would be the time to do that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can find me just by following Everline Social on Instagram. I have a free Facebook community that if you do have a business and you're looking for some daily help and advice, you can jump in there. I'm constantly showing up in there. And then my course is all in there and all the information as well. It's all on the top of my bio on Instagram if you want to check that out. But send me a DM, follow the links in there. I'm available on social media.
Outstanding.
Thank you so much for your time. You were a wonderful, lovely podcast guest, and wise beyond your years. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun with you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See y'all.
Did anybody else see me spill my beer?